Hello guys and welcome back to Wrestlelamia. You know, those who do not know or watch wrestling very closely may often label it as being fake. Whilst true to some extent, wrestling can be seen as choreographed to make sure that both competitors come to no harm in the ring. But this can't always be foolproof. Each day wrestlers try to make more and more risks in the ring to be noticed, but as we shall see in this video, it doesn't normally require a person to jump off a 20-foot ladder or dropping your opponent on thumbtacks. Sometimes the smallest and everyday moves can cause fatalities. In this episode we're going to look at 10 wrestlers who died amidst their match in the ring. No, not that Iron Mike. Long before the days of one of history's greatest boxers, there was another Iron Mike in the world of sport. He was the adopted father of one of WWF's best heels, the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. He may not share the same charisma as his adoptive son, but Mike DiBiase was a successful wrestler, winning a number of titles in different territories. In fact, DiBiase's most prolific match was his bout with the legend Dory Funk Sr. in a Texas death match, and it lasted an unbelievable 1 hour and 44 minutes. Unfortunately, DiBiase would not go on to see his son's success in the wrestling world, as his final match took place on the 2nd of July 1969 in Lubbock, Texas. He squared off against Man Mountain Mike. During the match, DiBiase suffered a fatal heart attack, and even though Harley Race had attempted CPR, he was pronounced dead at the hospital. His son Ted DiBiase had confirmed in an interview that his father had a huge cholesterol buildup, which in turn led to the massive heart attack. Unlike the US, female wrestling in Japan is taken a lot more seriously. Silicone implants and long blonde hair are rarely seen in Japan. Some female wrestlers start out very young, just like Plum Mariko, who debuted at the age of only 18. Mariko was an original member of the Japanese pro wrestling promotion and was renowned for her shoot style of wrestling, which was unfamiliar to see with female wrestlers. On the 15th of August 1997, she teamed up with Kaman Bolshoi and faced Mayumi Ozaki and Riko Amano at the Hiroshima Sun Plaza. Weeks leading up to the event, people started to notice that Mariko had forgotten finishes to the matches and had forgotten to save her partner during a tag match to cater to the storyline. Memory had been a problem for her as she suffered a number of concussions in the past. During this match though, Ozaki had used her signature Ligo bomb, but notice when she finished it, alarmingly Mariko was snoring. This may have been a sign that her brain was bleeding. She fell into a coma and never regained consciousness. She was rushed to the nearby hospital where she died in the early hours of the morning. In honor of her death, a memorial show was held in both 1997 and 1998, featuring female wrestlers from a number of different Japanese promotions. Mariko's incident was one of the first wrestling-related ring deaths in Japan, and coincidentally enough, the second had also involved another female wrestler. Emiko Kado debuted for Arisen Promotion on their very first anniversary show. Normally, Japanese promotions treat new talent differently and have them lose the majority of their first matches before the completion of their first year. Normally, it also involves a much more experienced wrestler to be stiff with their competitors. This was the case on her 15th match with the promotion, and on the 31st of March 1999 she teamed up with Mikiko Omukai against veterans Mariko Yoshida and Mikiko Futagami. During the match, Kado had suffered a hard blow to the head which resulted in an acute sprained membrane in her brain, which again is the same circumstances that happened to Plum Mariko. After 10 days she could not be revived and died at the tender age of 23. Dilip Singh, otherwise known as the Great Khali, has never been known to be a good wrestler. He was brought in the WWE because of Vince's tall wrestler fetish. From being the monster heel into the ring, he was then turned into a comedic relief as the Punjabi Playboy. What wasn't comedic, however, was the incident that occurred in May 2001. Rookie wrestler Brian Ong was training with Singh. Whilst training, Singh delivered a flapjack to Ong, but the move was botched due to Ong grabbing Singh's shirt instead of his back, as he was instructed. He landed tailbone first and his head was violently whipped back against the mat. This caused serious damage to his spine and brainstem. Ong had died from the injuries suffered when reaching the hospital. Singh had been held to cause the death inadvertently, and as a result, Ong's family sued All Pro Wrestling. Due to the fact they ignored Ong's previous concussions and he did not receive any protective gear or supervision by the APW staff, APW were found liable for recklessness, and Ong's family were rewarded $1.3 million. MISAWA was revered to be one of the best wrestlers in the world during the 1990s. His wrestling skills, timing and toughness in the ring were second to none, gaining over 24 5-star matches from the Wrestling Observer. The ring was a place where Misawa gained his incredible fame and respect from his fans, but unfortunately it would also be his place to rest. Wrestling for Pro Wrestling Noah at the Hiroshima Green Arena, Misawa teamed up with Go Shizaki and faced Akitoshi Setao and Bison Smith in a tag team championship match. Everything had been going well until Misawa took what seemed to be a belly-to-back suplex from Sato, but failed to move afterwards. The ring was crowded with both wrestlers and paramedics struggling to revive Misawa, but to no avail. Misawa was rushed to the nearby hospital where he died of the injuries later that night. It was believed that Misawa suffered a cervical spinal cord injury that caused cardiac arrest. This had not been official, as Misawa's family had invoked a clause under Japanese law not to have his cause of death publicly revealed. Larry Booker, otherwise known as Moondog Spot, was a wrestler more popular in the 1980s. He was known for being involved in the infamous Tupelo concession stand brawl, which is regarded to be the birth of hardcore wrestling. He even at one point held the WWF Tag Team Championship. After this though, he wasn't very much seen on television until 2003, where he made a surprise appearance on TNA. Being a Tennessee man, he was also invited to wrestle for Jerry Lawler's birthday bash in November 2003 at the Mid-South Coliseum. During his match, Larry had suffered a massive heart attack in the ring and died almost instantly. Lawler had recalled seeing Moondog completely fine and couldn't tell anything was wrong with him. He said it was like someone getting shot with a gun, as he was fine for 5 minutes in the ring and then all of a sudden he just fell back into the ropes in a sitting position. We're going back in time to the 50s for this next entry, back when women weren't seen to belong in the world of wrestling. Young, attractive, strong females seemed to be on a fast rise, however, during this time. One who stood out the most was JANETTE, who was intended to be the successor to the then Women's World Champion, which was Mildred Burt. In an event just 6 months after her starting professional wrestling, she was to wrestle twice in one night. Her first match was against Ella Waldeck, where she lost the match after receiving a strong body slam. After the match, however, she complained of having a bursting headache. Nevertheless, she still went into her second match of the night, which was a tag team match, during which she made an unplanned tag out and proceeded to collapse on the apron holding the ropes. She was rushed to the hospital nearby but never regained consciousness. It was determined she suffered a brain hemorrhage from the strong body slam. She was only 18 years of age. With a background in amateur wrestling and standing in at 6 foot 3 inches, weighing in at 350 pounds, Albright seemed like a likely candidate to make it big in the wrestling world. He started out in Stu Hart's Stampede Wrestling in Calgary, where he became a tag team champion. He then moved on to Japan, where he found the style of wrestling to be better. It was a more shoot fighting style of wrestling with hard hits and submission rather than showmanship. When Albright was not on tour with Japan, he would work for his father-in-law's promotion, that being Afa Anoi's World Extreme Wrestling promotion. On the 7th of January 2000, Albright faced local wrestler Lucifer Grimm. After Grimm hit him with an Ace Crusher, another form of an RKO, Albright didn't move. Attempts to revive him had failed and Albright passed away in the ring. The official cause of the death had not been the move, but Albright suffering a massive heart attack, as it was found that he had an enlarged heart and undiagnosed diabetes. Easily one of the most prolific pro wrestling deaths ever to occur in the ring, Owen for the most of his time in the WWF played the whiny younger brother to Bret Hart. He was the one always trying to get into Bret's spotlight but could never succeed. After Bret left the WWF in 1997, there wasn't much left for Owen, and management had the idea of Owen reviving his Blue Blazer character, a bumbling superhero just seen as comedic relief. For his match with the Godfather at Over the Edge, they wanted him to make a spectacular entrance from the roof of the arena using a quick release harness. As Owen proceeded to jump, his harness had accidentally released, leaving Owen to fall almost 80 feet in the air down to the ground below. Owen had narrowly missed the turnbuckle post and hit chest first onto the ropes. The blunt force had caused Owen to bleed internally and he was unable to be revived. Martha Hart, Owen's widow, successfully filed a wrongful suit against the WWF for not having the proper safety measures in place in case something had gone wrong. Some of you viewers may know that I have made an in-depth video on Owen Hart's death, and I will put the link to the video in the description so you can find out more on what happened that night. Pedro Ramirez was never seen as an amateur in the ring. He started his wrestling career at the tender age of 15 and was trained by his father, one of Mexican wrestling's top luchas, Pedro Aguayo. Wrestling for over 20 years, Pedro had competed with many different superstars and had a substantial amount of experience in the ring. But nobody could have foretold what could have happened on the 20th of March 2015. He was in a tag team match teaming with Manic, Rey Mysterio Jr. and Extreme Tiger. During the match, Mysterio used a head scissors takedown to propel Pedro out of the ring. He was quick to get back on his feet, however, and rolled back into the ring, where Mysterio gave a well-contacted dropkick near to his shoulder. As is the case normally when Rey sets up the 619, the opponent normally slumps onto the rope. On this occasion, however, he was supposed to miss, but Pedro didn't move. He was slumped on the rope for a good number of seconds, and Mysterio briefly went out of character to check on him. The match moved on quickly, ending in with a pinfall. But still they would notice that he wasn't moving, and Conan also attended to him, but stupidly started to shake his neck trying to wake him up. He didn't respond. Paramedics then finally rushed down to the ring and took Pedro on a stretcher, but was pronounced dead later on arrival to the hospital. For a number of days it wasn't known what had caused his death. The hospital confirmed his death to be the cause of cervical spine trauma. This may have been from the dropkick given to him, causing severe whiplash. However, on further inspection from the autopsy, it revealed that Pedro broke his C1, C2 and C3 vertebrae. The coroner stated that these fractures had taken place at two different moments of impact, and that Pedro died almost instantly. Criticism was also placed against the organizers, as it took a number of minutes for paramedics to attend, and Pedro was taken out on a piece of plywood and not a proper stretcher. The Tijuana Wrestling Commission stated that another 2 wrestlers had been injured during the show, to which paramedics were attending to. One of the 2 was a spinal injury, and they were unable to move him from one stretcher. A criminal investigation had also been launched, but nothing seemed to come out of it. Pedro has so far been inducted into the AAA Hall of Fame. Well guys, that about wraps up this video here. Please check out my other videos, and I'll see you next time for some more wrestling content.